Anyway, is that enough penance for my video last week? I thought, I'll stick Piggy back here. That's Racist Piggy, that is. And Racist Piggy has been influencing me terribly. And I have really thought long and hard about the video I put out last week for last week's Philosophy Sunday. And, you know, I was completely out of order having an opinion like that. And I got told off by everybody, and then I thought, well, I do believe that stuff, but I got a bit scared. So I thought, if I apologise and show penance, and you know, to those who have said I was a racist and alt-right, and you know, I'm Candace Owens fan, and I'm trying to use my patrons to you know, exert the manifest destiny, because I'm a white supremacist and all that type of thing, you know. And I thought, you know, I don't want anyone having a go at me, you know. So I just thought, if I just show a little bit of penance at the beginning of the video before we get into it, then people will see that I mean well. And so I do apologise for my racist video last week, and I do apologise for the fact that I thought I wasn't being racist. In fact, I was trying to put a different spin, a different, you know, re-look at what racism really is. That's all I was trying to do. But obviously, I'm wrong in this, and it's so obvious I'm wrong, and I'm really just, you know, the mouthpiece of a sort of alt-right conspiracy. You know, I've been watching too many Jordan Peterson videos and Ben Shapiro videos, you know, all that. And then all these like black academics like, you know, Thomas Sowell and Glenn Lowry and Coleman Hughes. I've been told that they're just puppets. They're just like, you know, Uncle Tom puppets for you know, the sort of the elite, which is controlling us. Although I've got to be honest, all the elites, all the media and everything doesn't seem to be touting this view. But anyway, I am wrong on the whole thing, and you know what happens when you're wrong, when you've been proved wrong as I have, is that you lose your confidence, don't you? You know, I've got to sit up here and act like the wise wizard of music and talk to you lots, and you've all got to sit there, and I've got to maintain this sort of illusion that I know what I'm talking about. But I'm afraid after that video, it was a bridge too far, wasn't it? It was a bridge too far, and I thought, what shall I do? So I realised that, you know, it's this, my mouth, it just says stuff and I can't control it. I'll come down here and start thinking, and then once I start thinking, this stuff comes out, you know. And it's like, and what it is, it's the views of a middle-aged white British person. That's what my views are. That's what they are, and I'm pretty sure that is the case. So my brain starts working, and then it's like these words come out of my mouth, and I'm never sure what they're going to say, but obviously my brain's not working right, and it needs some sort of correction, I think. This is the thing I've come... So what I did is that, because this is causing all the trouble, since the last video, I have taken a vow of silence. I've taped my mouth up. It's been difficult, you know, eating. I've been... you know, having to suck like fluids through a straw at the side. I could sort of get in. I could, it's a cross. If you sort of, I could get in at the side and do that, and that you know, that I just, you know, like that. And you know, my wife was much happier. She said it was a very peaceful week, which is good. So and then I thought, I've got to do some YouTube videos, haven't I? I've still got to do them. I can't just not. But I don't know whether I should carry on, really. You know, I don't know, because really it's like my brain, it's not working right. It needs to be retrained in some way. There is an ideology out there, and it's obviously an absolute moral ideology. I've sat here questioning this for like 2 or 3 years now, because I'm pretty sure there isn't an absolute morality, but I'm pretty sure there isn't an entirely subject morality. I thought we negotiated it through talking, and then you said your piece, and then someone said your piece back, and you come to some sort of central agreement with it. And sometimes, you know, to really see what the other person says, you have to be a little bit, you know, you need to load your position a little bit, maybe a bit further than you think, you know. Ooh, you know, look, and he's really buckling down. He's doubling down. Look, he is. He is. He just said that. He just heard what he said, that he's only saying these things just to get an opinion about it. I'm pretty sure he does think these things. I think he does. What's happened to him? Look at his hair. His hair. It's not plush. Last week when he had the power, his hair was like, it was stood up with Edward's power. He was drawing in the energy of the universe. And now he's come back on. He's got the yellow top of the coward on. You know, he's got the racist pig of entitlement next to him. His mouth's taped up and his hair's lacked all its power. He's looking down. What's happened to Andy? Well, but the thing is if he is wrong, if he is so wrong to have these opinions, then you know, maybe this is what we all need to do, don't we? There's a dominant ideology out there. You know, very clever people have worked out, far cleverer than me, have worked out what it is to be racist. And of course, the only person that could tell you what racism is a black person, isn't it? They're the only people, because they're the ones who experience it every day, don't they? I don't experience. I mean, I'm a white person, and I live in, you know, Great Britain, and I think, what's the percentage of white people in this country? It's like about 85-90% white in Britain. So really, the country's racist before it starts, doesn't it? Because it's just full of white people, absolutely full of them. You know, so. Really, I'm not entitled to any opinion on this. Well, I am entitled to an opinion on this, I've now realised, but it's got to be their opinion. And if you don't have that opinion, of course, they've got a method. Because there's no point in reasoning with someone like me, is there? There's no point. There's no point in reasoning. I mean, you know, my mind has been warped by an ideology. It's all that MAGA stuff. You know, it's all Trump and all that bits. You know, I've been, you know, reading all this too much stuff, you know. It's like and you know, and then, you know, every Wednesday Tommy Robinson comes around for a cup of tea. So it seems like a reasonable chap to me. I mean, he's hard if you get. I mean, he's only little, but he's hard, and I feel that having him around's good, because if I got into a fight, because I'm quite wimpy, as you can see by the yellow top, I'm quite wimpy. And so if anybody does come at me, and I've got Tommy with me, he's got those football hooligan skills, hasn't he? He's gonna come in like this, isn't he? He's gonna sort it out like the saviour, the white saviour for us middle class white men with our bad opinions. And when you realise you're so wrong, it knocks your confidence. And so this is why I'm wittering on like this. This isn't a proper Philosophy Sunday. A Philosophy Sunday is me here, massive big hair, coming out and telling you about chaos and order and knowing what I'm talking about. But I just haven't got it in me. My confidence has gone. Now, up until now, that first 10 minutes was an attempt to be humorous. And those of you who had a go at me, I actually do appreciate you having a go. You know, I don't think my position is absolute at all, right? And this is a really interesting thing that I've thought of, having all the discussions. And here in the UK, there is a jazz saxophonist called Martin Speake, and he teaches at Trinity Laban, which is a very exclusive school down in London. I have a few friends that teach there. I don't know Martin, but I first came across Martin when he appeared on the Jazz Awards in the 1980s in his saxophone quartet, Itchy Fingers. I hope I've got this right. I mean, I'm not a massive expert on it, but I think that was the group he was in. And I can remember watching it because Joe Zawinul was the judge. Does anybody remember that, Joe Zawinul, here in the UK on that Jazz Awards thing? And Itchy Fingers won. Andy Shepherd came out and was unbelievable, you know, but they voted for Itchy Fingers. And I didn't get it at the time, but I think Zawinul especially, he saw them as being more in step with the culture at the time, whereas Andy Shepherd was playing that sort of post-Coltrane thing, and that was always stuck in my mind. I had no idea he'd ended up, you know, teaching at Trinity Laban. Now, what's happened is this: Martin received an email that was going around the college. Now, I've worked in colleges, and these emails come out, and it goes to support Black Lives Matter, or you know, support trans rights, do this, do that, do that. These things come around, you know, they're just to make sure that everybody, you know, they're having to tick a box, you know. It's like the people who, you know, look into the way these courses are run, especially in schools with Ofsted, they want to make sure that the people feel included, and there's inclusivity. They want to make sure that there's equal opportunities for everybody, and these issues that people can feel comfortable. So they check, you know, they send out these things, you know, and I think they'd sent out something about BLM. And Martin, being like me and completely in the wrong, because he's an old white middle-aged bloke, you know, and not having a clue about this, because we grew up in the 70s when it was, you know, when racism was the best thing you could ever do. You know, when I went to school, it was the best thing ever being racist. Us white people had such a right laugh being racist in the 70s, but now it's all been taken away from us, and we sit there trying to keep our mouth shut. And then, you know, somebody comes along about BLM, and it all boils over. You know, and so this was an article about how jazz musicians in the UK, that the black jazz musicians are experiencing racism, and he didn't quite agree with this, you know, because being a part of the British jazz scene, you know, I suppose he's looked at all the people that emerged in the 1980s, because there was this huge explosion of jazz in the 1980s here in the UK. I didn't think I was going to talk about any of this, but this is where we're going, and so this is going, plump it up, come on, where's the power? So I can't stop it, this is where we're going. So, back in the 1980s, there seemed to be two camps, and the thing was, these two camps came out, and they were really, really, like, massive. They were on the TV, some of them were getting in the charts. Suddenly jazz became the thing here in the UK. It was just after the sort of Winter Marsalis explosion over in the States, but this movement was far less conservative. They were bringing in reggae and dance music and fusion and all sorts of different things, Afrocentric music, and I loved it all. I absolutely loved it. When Courtney Pine's first album came out, I was just blown away. So I started to go and see Courtney. It was incredible, because suddenly we had a player in the UK that was an absolute monster. Like, Courtney Pine could just... He would play this sort of post-Coltrane modal circular breathing thing, and his band with Julian Joseph and Gary Crosby and Mark Mondesir, what a band. You could suddenly here in the UK go and see this group, and I used to go and see it. Their drummer Mark Mondesir became my hero. I followed him around in all sorts of different groups. This bloke was playing like, at the time, I had never seen anybody playing like this. You know, over in the States, Dennis Chambers perhaps was exploring it, but Mark was so much more jazz orientated. He was so much more in command of odd time signatures and polyrhythms, and his touch was so light. You know, and I just loved Mark Mondesir. I used to follow him around all the time. You know, Mark watches the channel. He's probably watching this with bemusement, going, oh, because, you know, I chat with Mark and he's going, oh, I've been chatting to Andy, he seemed all right to me, but I didn't know he was a racist. You know, but anyways, if you're watching, I'll just show you the piece of paper there. I'm sorry I'm sorry for being a racist. I'm turning my back on racism. You know, I've flirted with it last week. I flirted with it. I don't think it's for me, really. I don't think I can cope with all the comeback, if you know what I mean. I don't like it. I'm not that type of type, you know, that's going to stand up and, you know, and all that bit. So, you know, I've doubled back anyway. So, these two camps emerged. We had the Courtney Pine camp, and then you had the Loose Tubes camp. And I got the Loose Tubes album, and I got Courtney Pine. I've done both. Loose Tubes was predominantly white. It was all white people. There was definitely a divide going on. It was so strange. Loose Tubes was very intellectual. Django Bates, Ian Bellamy, and all these guys. They're really, you know, there was a certain thing. And then over on the black side, you had the sort of antithesis to the Loose Tubes, which was the Jazz Warriors. And that they were incredible as well. They got people like Steve Williamson, incredible musician, you know, saxophone player in that group, whole host of people. And anyway, I loved them both. There was the odd smattering of different races in each group, but on the whole, there was this division there. Now, Martin would have come up in the 80s when all this was happening. Now, and he sent this email saying that it's actually the other way around, that white people are being prejudiced against in the jazz scene here in the UK. Now, anybody with a brain in their head say, no, you don't say that. Well, you just don't say what you're saying, Martin, that white people have been, you know, there's prejudice against white people. You see, Well, we'll get onto that in a bit. I've got to watch. I've got to watch this because it's going. I can't stop it. I do apologise for you. I just, if you're here watching it, and you just, this is just spewing out now. It's called free expression. I don't know what I'm about to say. I didn't know I was going to talk about all this. I was going to talk about confidence. You can tell. Go back to the beginning. Andy was going to talk about confidence, but he's not. He's talking about something else. I might try with my lecturing skills to bring it back to confidence. Anyway. So I put this email out, and in this he lists all the OBEs and MBEs that have happened in the last 20, 30, 40 years, So in that period, it's like Courtney Pine, Julian Joseph, Gary Crosby. I think every single one in that quartet I was talking about, except poor old Mark Mondesir, they all got like 90 OBEs or CBs. Every single one. Mark didn't. Now for me, they were all incredible. But the world-class musician in that group was Mark Mondesir, without a D. Or I think I say he's Mark. I think it's Mark Mondesir, isn't it? It's not Mark Mondesir. Another person I'm saying their name wrong. What are you doing, Andy? Anyway, I'll stick with the way I've said it for the last 40 years. Mark Mondesir, one of my heroes, one of the greatest drummers ever lived, and I would say he's in the top 3 greatest British drummers that have ever lived. I would say. I would also put into there Simon Phillips and Gary Husband. They are something else, those. Anyway, Mark never got an honour. Now, I this week have been listening to an album with Mark Mondesir on and his incredible bass playing brother Michael. And it is an album called Acme. It's an incredible fusion album from the 1990s. And on there, as well as that, is John Paricelli and Ian Bellamy. Now, John Paricelli and Ian Bellamy played with the Loose Tubes. Mark Mondesir had played, originally with Courtney Pine. But I always felt that Mark felt hemmed in by that sort of post-Coltrane modal, thing that they were doing. And he wanted to explore more areas. He's a true future viewing musician. That's what I felt. And because of that, I can remember seeing, Mark then cropped up playing with Jeff Beck. He cropped up playing with John McLaughlin. He played with the greatest jazz musicians in the world, right? On their terms, not like visiting Britain and they put a band together. I'm talking about he went out and he played with those guys with no, nobody saying, there's a British jazz. Just get completely ignored. And that's the guy that doesn't get, he doesn't get that sort of MBE or OB. It's quite interesting, really. I didn't think I was going to talk about this. This is incredible, This is what happens when you lose your confidence. It's like you think you can stick the tape over your mouth and try and hem it all in, what you think, but then you start talking as human beings and stuff comes out. This is where I'm at the moment. Now, I think Martin's email's stupid. In a perfect world, he should be able to say what he says, right? This is in a perfect world. People should be able to say, I don't agree with you, Martin. They should be able to sit down with him and shake his hand and go, I don't agree, Martin. I think you're completely wrong there. And he go, yeah, but they did it. And some of it will be how he feels. It'll be an emotional response. And some of it will be based on some sort of logic. And those on the other side will have an emotional response. And some of theirs will be based upon logic. So, to counter, I've supported Martin here because, there is now, the students have boycotted his lessons and they've put a petition up to, everyone signs it that's against him and then he will get booted out, I suppose. And Laban seem to be, on the side of the students, which they're going to be, because obviously in the end the money's coming from the students and all that. So, doing a bit of research, I don't know what Martin has been like as a teacher in the college. There seems to be some concentration. I'm really trying to be fair with this as much as I can, because I've wandered into this serious area on this video and I didn't mean to, but that's where we're at. It started off quite silly and now we're in this serious area. So if I was arguing against Martin, and I believe this about what I was going to say, is I would say that jazz exists in a sort of privileged bubble. Everybody in its privilege. Everybody's in its privilege. Right at the bottom of that pile, young black British people, working class normal people, they're never going to be able to access the world of jazz, right? So his statement is faulty because of that, right? It's the same as working class white British people. They're not going to be able to access the world. But jazz is a rarefied atmosphere full of intellectuals and people on arts funding, you know, and nobody has to dig any ditches or anything. If you have achieved one of the few jobs that exist in this business where you could earn a living out of it. Most jazz musicians, as Frank Zappa said, you know, this is unemployment music. So most people that can't make a career, but those who have and made the money is a list. And he is right. When you look at that list, there doesn't seem to be any bias there towards a certain race. It seems equally spread out, you know. I have to say that, you know, all those OBEs and MBEs that, you know, people like Alfie Robinson and all those guys got, they were incredible players. They deserve those, you know, without a doubt. Do I think there was a little bit of virtue signalling on the side of the establishment? Yeah. See, I tend to go down the middle on these things. I can imagine a world where both of those things are happening. You know, it's like when a man interviews, if the boss interviews two secretaries, and they come in and they've got identical, this is so bad what you're going to say now, and you're such an old man. So it comes in, two secretaries come in, and they're both identical. They can do all the same skills, they've got all that down, and the one's a bit more attractive than the other one. But, you know, what they're going to pick, it's like, you know, so if you're in a situation where, you know, you've got two identical jazz musicians, you want to give them an OBE, you know, but is there extra? You've got to ask yourself, in our society, is by giving the OBE to the black guy, do you as a white person, because remember we're all racist, do we get some sort of recompense for our racist behaviour? Is that the perception of it? We know if we were to do that, and if the establishment does it, is it like the establishment goes, see, we you know, I know we went around the world beating all the black people up in the old days, you know, when we kidnapped them all, and then we had the slave trade, and, you know, we all made our money, but now, you know, we feel very bad about it, and, you know, so look, we're giving, you know, these things that were so important, these OBEs and knighthoods, we're giving to the black people, you know. Both of those things are the case, right? Now, what I am saying my opinion now, maybe I'm completely out of order from saying it, and I'm really trying because, you know, because of what I've seen over the last week and stuff that's happened to me personally, I am very aware that it's best to tread carefully through this, isn't it? When my video came up where I'd said, what was it called? I don't even want to say it in case I upset anybody, I might trigger somebody. I don't think that jazz is black music. That's what the title was. Now, saying it now, with what I've seen happen to Martin, I'm a little bit worried. And I think that's come in and tempered me. I've lost my confidence because of that. I thought, bloody hell, what if they put a petition about to me? What if people start messaging YouTube and take down my YouTube? I've had it, right? I've had it. So that's why I thought I'll come on and I'll apologise. I'll apologise for what I've done. Now, I've got to be honest, some of the people that were pushing back against me in the comments, I actually appreciate what they do. They're pretty well reasoned. I know it gets a bit heated and I come back and say, oh no, you're throwing insults at me, but that's the game. That is the argumentative game. And I'm the sort of person that can do that. I can get to the end of it and then say, shake hands and go, that was really good, and then go away and say, you know, I tried my best, but you know, they did have me on that certain thing. And one of the things that's come out from the discussions on that video, remember the video as I'm filming this has not come out. Now, when you're watching this, if you're watching this, it means it did come out and they didn't cancel me, right? And in my offence, if it does come out and people are watching it, in my warped view of the world, I thought I was arguing against racism on that video. Andy, how can you be so you don't understand, do you? You don't understand how racism works. You don't understand what's happened, especially you're not even British, so you don't understand what's happened in America. You don't understand the plight of, Afro-Americans, what they've lived through. The idea that can just walk away and ignore that, you can't, because there's systemic racism in place. And if you're not aware of it, this is what Led Belly was saying when you said, be awake, be woke to what is going on. You've done a video about it. You've done a video about strange fruit with, Billie Holiday, about the lynchings. You know about all this. Even you're not ignoring race. Even you're pointing it out, So... Because, I don't know where I am. I actually don't. I don't know where I am. I've sat here and I thought, when I Philosophy Sunday, I'm always honest. Because I've been fielding 3 lots of criticism, and I have been accused by sort of 3 factions. The comments about that video, the comments about Martin Speake, and then another discussion I had about Beyonce's making country music, right? And every time I say my opinion, it's like you're a racist, you're right wing, you're just championing stuff, you don't understand it, you're ignorant, and all that type of stuff. And the thing is, what got to me is I thought, maybe they're right. There is a part of me that goes, maybe I'm right. Maybe in my sort of little Winnie the Pooh like English world that I was brought up in here in the Midlands, which is all toffee apples and, walks picking berries. That's what my childhood was like, Maybe in that world, I just haven't got a clue about race. Maybe I just don't understand. But, see, it's not quite like that. Because... my family's mixed race. That doesn't mean I got any authority. I don't say this as a gotcha. The reason why I bring up the fact that my family's mixed race is that if you've got mixed race people, they hover between being black and white, and so these categories seem a bit absurd. If we're in a family where some people are sort of on the side of being they're in the brown camp, and I'm in the pinky, pasty camp, and then in between there's a whole bunch of people, and I was having an argument with someone and they were saying, you're a white guy. And I was thinking, well, my mum's Indian, she's from Calcutta. She had to flee the riots because they were going to try and kill her. And so, surely, that means I'm not just your standard white person. I've got my own individual life that I've lived, And so you say that, and then I got told by one identitarian that, yeah, but you present as white. Now, I find that abhorrent. Not to me, I don't care what they say about me. But if people walk around saying that about other people, the mixed race kids, one minute you have people being racist against them, and then the next bit got idiots saying, yeah, but you present as black, or you don't present as black, you present as white. It seems like that... what they used to say to my mum when my mum was young, she'd got blonde hair even though she's Indian. There's English, she's mixed. By the time she was in her 20s, she was dark skin, black hair. But when she told people, often they would say, "Oh yeah, well you don't look it," and that was the same as someone saying, "Well you don't present as mixed." I am white. I identify as white. That's what I am. But my individual experience is seeing the position of mixed race people, and we're all mixed, and see my personality, I champion mixing. I'm here on a channel where I talk about fusion, jazz fusion, I talk about prog. Why do you think I like those music forms so much? It's because I don't know what to expect, because they're opening their arms, they're bringing everything in, they're chucking it all around. That's what I love about art. I love the mixtures, I love the newness that comes out of different things colliding together, right? And that's the same with people. We're all individuals, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is in the early 2000s, I bumped into a guy called Amajit Talwar, and he had an organisation called Punch Records, and they were a record shop. Back then, I was making dance music. I was involved in the UK garage scene. I was a producer, and he just started doing workshops, going around schools talking about hip hops, and he got a number of rappers working with him. And I came up to him and said, well, why don't we go into the schools and the youth centres and, we'll actually record the rappers, which we started doing. And I ended up, producing literally thousands of rappers, underprivileged, kids, both black and white. They're into urban music. Not allowed to say any urban music anymore, but I have, just so you know what I'm talking about. And this is where my sympathy towards rap comes from, that I get it in the neck from the other lot, So, where are we? So yeah, I saw literally thousands, and Punch Records got stronger. They were real champions of black music. If you go onto their website, you can see they champion black music. And I was working with black musicians within the black music world. That's what I was doing. And Ammo has since gone on. He's got a MBA, I think. You see, it's happened to me. Maybe that's why I'm sympathetic with Martin. I'm sat there thinking, I did all this stuff. I never got an MBA. And Ammo's got an MBA. Ammo's Indian, by the way, if you want to know what these categories are. And he's now works for UK Music, and he's head of Equal Ops in the UK. Now, you see, my background is working in these areas, and I come in, I think, because of my background and then working in this area, I've, this idea of calling stuff urban music, the opposite to that would be rural music. I didn't think it was wise to call it urban music, and now people don't like that term urban music if they think it's stigmatising, and I think it's true. And I felt the idea of calling stuff black music had the same thing. I felt it diminished what was going on. It put it into a box. It put it into the identity box. It was all virtue now. It was all virtue, but underneath it, the establishment going, yeah, but they're all dodgy, really. The people who make this music, aren't they? But let's pay lip service to it. Let's chuck some funding at them. I mean, none of these people are actually going to work in the industry. There's no industry there. You feel like, well, there is a music industry there. People making records. These kids are like focused. Oh, anyway, this is. So I have an opinion based upon working within that framework, right? And one of the things that became really apparent to me is that if you are working in an area where you are discussing identity issues in some way, the funding is more readily available to you. And I think, as a professional musician, the reason why I ended up working with these organisations is because they could get the funding. There's also funding for, white kids stuck out in rural areas that are cut off, and I've done projects for that as well. But I became very aware of that. And my conclusion was that it would be much wiser for those on the left, and I see myself as centre-left, to, rather than placing the focus onto race or gender or sexuality or any of these things, it would be much better to focus on class. If all this stuff that the identitarians say is true, and it's all black people at the bottom of the bottom of the barrel, and they are facing, which I think is the case. I think that is definitely happening, and I think that will be the biggest barrier for black people accessing jazz. And if you're a wealthy, educated black person from a supportive family that can pay for you, pay the money to support yourself, which is what you have to do to get into the world of jazz. You can't just walk into it and start making a living and buy a house. So you've got to be supported in. Those are the ones who are going to be able to access jazz. All those students at Trinity Laban, right, have gone through a system where they have been able to get their, GCSEs, their A levels, get good grades. They've been able to audition and then go down to London, get a house in London, get their loan or get it paid for somehow and pay the exorbitant fees that universities now charge to do a jazz degree, right? And that is why now the universities are so, let's bow down to the, to the students, because that's where the money's from. I mean, I've worked in college, I know exactly how that works. So, that's a different class of people. We know there's a big swathe of black and white kids at the bottom of the pile that wouldn't even know what I was talking about when I said Trinity Laban in universities and student loans and all that sort of stuff. They don't live in that world. So my opinion was that the government should be spending the money on people at the bottom. If they do that, the ones that will need to be helped will be helped. Now, I'm not the first person to think that. I soon realised that someone had said this before, and it was Martin Luther King. He had said it in a number of different speeches. Now, I have quoted Martin Luther King here. I'm pretty sure that is what he said. You can correct me if I'm wrong and say you don't understand it and you're just a white person, quoting Martin Luther King, which is racist. But that was my take on it. I'm trying to be as honest I'm trying to be honest here. That's what I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be just me, right? And then if people accept that, they can. And if they don't accept that, if they really think that it could be the case that my motives are bad and I don't realise it. I could be like the Nazis, couldn't they? Because they thought they were doing good, right? And it could be that I am ideological in my position, and then when people put up counter arguments, I just discount them because I'm holding my position. But the thing is, I'm on here saying that to you, right? And I don't think the others on the other side are saying that, right? I have adjusted my opinion on the idea that jazz should be called black music or not. I would say now that I would say this: call it whatever you like. Nicholas Payton wants to call it, black American music. I will support him in calling it. There is some degree of truth. When someone says black American music, I go, yeah, I know what he means. He means blues. He means jazz. He means hip hop. He means soul. He means funk. It's all that, that stuff. You're right. And then you go, it's a bit of a wide term, and we know he doesn't mean that. He doesn't even mean all of jazz, does he? So the term's not. See, I've talked through it from his point of view, and still I'm coming back to my thing. But I will support him in saying it till the day I die. The word jazz is problematic, but it's the word jazz. That is the word now. There's all sorts of words that are problematic if you look at their original meaning. It's like I won't go into that. Not because I shouldn't say it, just I can't remember the full story. God, this is a long one. 40 minutes we're coming up to. Right, so I've got to try and get it back around to confidence at the end of this. I will do it. I'm going to try and do it. So, my position is this, that I think that jazz is American music. I think it's like the American music form because it's so sophisticated and it's so able to do so much stuff. If you say it's an expression of the suffering of black people, it's expression of their angst and their position, I don't think it always is. It can be. It can be an expression of whatever you want. But when Miles Davis turns around and says, I'm a middle class guy, my dad was a doctor and my mum was a teacher and I've never suffered in my life and I don't intend to. That's basically paraphrasing what he says. I believe him. Can he play the blues? Yeah. He's saying you don't need to have suffered. He went to Juilliard and some probably white lecturer said, this is the blues, you have to suffer to play the blues. And he got up, walked out, he said, this is nonsense. People have different opinions. So I think calling it American music it's definitely an American music form. It's the American music form. Now, rhythm and blues, funk, soul, hip hop, rap, all those other music forms that have come out of it. For me, and I've always said this, they're just subsets of jazz. There's jazz and blues. I think blues is much more an expression of the black American experience. I really do. But with jazz, there's two issues, and I tried to cover it on the video last week, and so I won't go through it. You can go and watch the video. But my point here now is that I think that where I've tempered my opinion is, yes, maybe when you look at jazz, there's all these different influences in there. Yeah, maybe that's the case. European influences, French, but Celtic. You've got Latin American, all Spanish. You've got these Native American. All maybe it's all made up of all those things. So it's very hard to say that that's a black American music form when all these other people, the influences are in. And the same with the people. We keep going back in history, and as far as we go back, there seems to be all sorts of people working in the area of jazz. I don't think anyone's historically gone back to a point where it's only black people that are fusing all these things together, right? Which people have said on their pushbacks. I just don't think that's the case, right? But where I have tempered my position based upon the pushbacks I've had, I think me being a British person, I actually don't understand the racist situation in America. I don't think I do. That's where I have changed. I did an interview with the martial artist Ron Hall a few months ago, who's a black martial artist that I think was sidelined because of racism in the film industry. It's a very interesting conversation. And he pushes back a bit about this. He says, Andy, you don't know. But he says it like he says it like a mate. He says, Andy, you're not British. You don't know what it's like here. And I was going, yeah, I probably don't. And I probably don't. So that experience, I think I need to consider more as being really the glue that joins jazz together, and that glue that joins these things together turns what should be just a sort of happy-go-lucky folk form that, you know, originally was like a party music into something with the expressive power of great art. And that is what black people brought to it. And because of that, but not all black people, this is the problem. It's black American. Then you come up with the name Black American Music, don't you? And I proved myself wrong. And I've tried to be as transparent as I can there, following the logic right in front of you. I don't know. I really don't know. And that's the thing about having a channel like this. I've just been up the shop to get some bread and milk. And I'm thinking about all this. And I've been toying with an idea, and I'm going to do it on another video. This is going to be part one, where I look at you know, I look at self-evaluation and thinking, well, are you right or not? I think that is the most important thing. Am I wrong to be putting that video out now? I don't know. I don't feel as strong in my... even at the start of this video, I felt stronger. And talking it through in front of you is... I've actually got to the point where calling jazz Black American music is a logical name. Oh, shut your mouth. I know what's supposed to do. I do apologise. Where's the out? There we go. You read that, sorry for the voices. I'm going to go back to shutting up now. If you like this video, please like it. If you want to see more of somebody not know what the hell they're talking about, then press subscribe. If you want to support me in my Patreon echo chamber, you know, with the goal of manifest destiny, then you can do that by becoming a patron in the echo chamber. And if you don't want to become part of my Patreon echo chamber, but you want to support me in my racism, then please drop some money in the PayPal. I don't know what this video is, but of course you know how I work. I've sat down, this is what's come out of my mouth. It's still working, it's not...